Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of It's Okay Not to Be Okay. I'm Bella, and I'm a clinical psychology student at Nova Southeastern University. And just today, Dr. Buksani, why don't we talk a little bit about narcissism? I know you recently released your book on the topic. So I was curious. Yes, I'm sure. And I was just curious, when people use the word, narcissist today, what do they most commonly misunderstand about narcissism?
I think what they commonly misunderstand is that there's only one kind of narcissist, right? So even the DSM, and you know exactly what that is.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to school for that. But it's, when we talk about NPD or narcissistic personality disorder, really it's a very narrow definition, right? Because it really talks just about the grandiose narcissist. Doesn't touch upon the other kinds of narcissists. So your vulnerable narcissist, your self-righteous narcissist, your neglectful narcissist, the communal narcissist. So there's a different kinds of narcissists that are out there, and I think one of the most confusing ones is probably the vulnerable narcissist. And I think that kind of creates a misunderstanding, because people expect a narcissist to be grandiose all the time, to be very flamboyant and charismatic, but the vulnerable narcissist is none of those. So they have this characteristics of narcissism. So they have the entitlement, and they have the insecurity of what defines narcissistic personalities, but it doesn't present in a grandiose way. It presents more in a vulnerable, a victim, come, save me. So it's a very different presentation. And I think that confuses a lot of them.
No, I'm sure. And, speaking of the DSM, like you brought up earlier, I was thinking, beyond those diagnoses, or like the terms used there, or just in popular psychology terms, what is narcissism, would you say?
So I would say it's a person. Okay, so there are a couple of things that I think need to be there, right? So
Mm-hmm.
narcissistic personality disorder is a diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
That's when the narcissist is coming in, so we can diagnose.
Mm-hmm.
Does the narcissist come in? Very rarely, right? So there's not too many people who are diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. Okay. Having said that, there are a lot of people with narcissistic traits, and narcissism falls in the continuum. So, from your very superficial, I'm taking selfies all the time, and self-obsessed, it's annoying, but it doesn't hurt me, to the other extreme, which is the malignant narcissist, which is, now they do some serious damage, right? Because then there is violence, there's coercive control. So the malignant narcissist is really the worst of its kind. In fact, malignant narcissist is probably one step before psychopathy. Okay, so that's how dangerous a malignant narcissist is. So that's the continuum of narcissism. And there are, what the experts in our field have said, somewhere between 15 and 20% of the population is narcissistic. So that means there's somewhere in that continuum, okay, of narcissism. So what is narcissism? I think there's some things that need to be present for somebody to be narcissistic. One is, a huge focus on self. So, that self-obsession, or the self, everything that I'm doing has to be about me and for me. Narcissists think that they are special, but here's the thing, many of us might think we're special, but for narcissists, they feel that they are better than everybody else. And I think that's where it gets complicated. So not only that I'm good, but I'm better than everybody else, which also means that I need to be treated as if I'm better than everybody else. The core piece of narcissism is that sense of entitlement. That I deserve to be treated in a certain way. These are my needs, and everybody has to kind of work towards fulfilling. So that's the that sense of entitlement, that everything and everyone has to function to serve me. So that's that sense of entitlement. The other thing that I think is important is the complete lack of accountability. So where other people, if they do something wrong, and we do, right? We all make mistakes. There's that ownership that I can go up and say, I'm really sorry. That was not okay. I should not have done that. For a narcissist, because narcissism is so rooted in insecurity, they just cannot take accountability. So these are some of the characteristics that I think, are, other than what, is in the DSM, really kind of define narcissism.
No, of course, and I'm glad you mentioned that. I was thinking also in general, you kind of touched on ego and insecurity. What would you say then drives a narcissist, or what would you say narcissism is rooted in, I guess?
Shame. It's a deep level of insecurity. So here's the thing. Okay, we do understand that narcissism comes from trauma. Okay, not all narcissists. So here's what happens. So we have temperament. Okay, so kids are born with temperament. So, and some are born with difficult temperaments. So now we have the temperament, and there's two kind of pathways for narcissism to develop. So we've got the difficult temperament, and then now we've got either the parenting that's overindulgent. So everything that the child wants, they get. And it could be that everything that the child wants, they get because they're that difficult. A lot of parents kind of give in to difficult kids because they're like, oh my gosh, just take it, right? So what at that point the child is learning is, okay, if I throw a tantrum, I'm going to get what I want, okay? So one is that, and overindulgence does not always have to be a result of the difficult temperament of a child. Okay, so overindulgence could just be that the child, the parent is overindulging the child, giving them everything that they want, okay, putting the child on a pedestal, that sort of stuff. So that's one pathway. And the other pathway is actually extreme neglect, like dismissive parenting. So, difficult temperament of the child, but then, here I have an environment that's extremely invalidating, dismissive. So then that becomes kind of a coping mechanism. You see, so, this is the way we see narcissism develop. But no matter what, it is rooted in a very deep level of insecurity, and especially when it's that pathway of that the very dismissive, and even when it's an indulgent environment, like parents are giving you everything, but you're always kind of you're on that pedestal, which means that you could get off the pedestal anytime. So you're always kind of insecure even about holding that pedestal. So it is rooted in insecurity. And what happens is when they feel shame, so when a narcissist experiences shame, given that they are already so insecure, so everything that they're doing is to, they're putting on an act in front of everyone, right? So they're playing this role, they're putting on a facade. When they experience shame, so say, something doesn't go their way, or someone says something about them that's critical, right? Or someone just says, hey, I really kind of didn't like the way you did that was hurtful. For a narcissist, that shame brings about rage. So they kind of they're just going with the shame rage cycle because they cannot accept that there is something that they are not doing okay, or that's flawed about them, and they know it. Okay, so it's not that they are living in some fantasy world that they some of them may believe that they are unique in certain aspects, but most of the narcissists, and in fact if there's no psychopathy involved over there, narcissists actually do know that they are flawed, and their whole game is to make sure that nobody else finds that out. So if somebody does, and if somebody calls out, that makes it very challenging for them, and it makes them actually very angry.
I'm sure, and I think, based off of what you were saying, that probably comes from a sense of wanting validation or admiration. And you kind of touched on it a bit, but I just want to know a little bit more. Why do you think that they rely so much on that validation, in order to keep control?
If I don't feel very good about myself, okay, so then I'm going to seek that validation from outside, right? So it's a lifeline for them. They need that admiration because it's what we call the narcissistic supply. They need that supply to be able to exist. You and I, we not that we, like, if we do something, it would be nice to get recognition, but our whole identity is not based on the recognition that we receive externally, because we are confident enough to know that, I did a good job, or I could have done better with this, but we don't need that from the outside. But for them, since they really don't have that, because it's so deep rooted in insecurity, that the only way for them to survive is when they get that validation from outside, or the admiration from outside. And remember, that whole facade that they're putting on is about that, for that.
No, of course, and that makes sense, once you put it in terms like that. Like you mentioned, we've been talking about it in class and things like that, so I know there's a lot of contradiction there, which I definitely need more clarity on. But like I said, you kind of touched on it, but why do you think then that narcissism is so confusing or contradicting at times, when it comes to interactions that they may have with others?
Well, because here's the thing. So, narcissists can be very charming, and that whole phase of the love bombing, when they're trying to kind of get hooked, right? So it's a very it can be very intoxicating, because they're very charming, they're very lovely, they put people on a pedestal, they really want to know about you, until they flip, where they feel shame, or something is not going their way, and that switch flips, and then you see the real characteristic of that narcissist come out, and in the form of rage, or in the form of not taking accountability and all of that. And you're like, oh, what happened here? And you see, that's what keeps people stuck in those relationships, because it's not all bad. There is that good where they are overindulgent. And listen, if a narcissist had a good day, because there are times when they feel okay about themselves, because maybe they've got their supply from somewhere else, maybe from school, maybe from work, whatever. So when they've come home, they can be concerned about, oh, how did it go? How was your day? And did you have a good day? So you're like, she really cares, or he really cares, so it can get very confusing, because it's not all bad, and it's not bad all the time. That's why it gets confusing.
No, that makes a ton of sense. When we talk about it in classes and things like that, it's kind of hard to see kind of the real, I guess, practical information about narcissism, since we don't talk about it as often.
Yes.
But with that being the case, what would you say is one truth or one aspect of narcissism that you wish people knew before maybe labeling themselves or someone else that they know as a narcissist?
I wish they did not minimize it. I wish it wasn't, that they're not going around calling everybody who's a little grandiose in presentation, or who's, the selfie. I just think they need to be mindful of labeling, because you can end up then, minimizing the validity of when people are in narcissistic relationships and, are really, really getting hurt. On the narcissism front, I also wished, through dialogues like that people understand that, there could be narcissists out there who do not have that grandiose presentation. So understand that it can show up in very different ways. And here's the other thing: it doesn't matter if someone is toxic. If you're, someone in your life is bringing you down, like your energies are being affected. It doesn't matter whether they're narcissistic or not. That's a toxic relationship. So, I wish people can find the courage to walk out of relationships like that.
No, of course. And I think it's really great to see what that would look like on a real life scale and just the variety of what narcissism could look like. So I really appreciate, talking to you about this. And, I know, like you said, with your book coming out, that just came out recently, I'm sure you know a lot about the topic, but
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, it's close to my heart. So yes, we'll continue to have more conversations about narcissism, the world of narcissism.
Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. And then next episode we can talk a little bit more about that. Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Dr.
Thanks.